message for my people.
Nick Dad, baby. We the new label.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, son.
Now this the black sheep, sticking it to him. I need a crib like I'm Gatsby.
I need it.
In hand, just understand
My pocket's that deep.
with nothing to prove. I ain't got nothing to do. When they can't compete and I got nothing to lose. You see, they told me I'm the one that's gonna benefit.
Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum, the number one sports betting vibe on the internet. I'm your delightful host, Nick Dais, at Nick Dais 10, as you can find me. All things Veterans Minimum are at Veterans Minimum. We have a jam-packed show. We got a lot to get into, and I want to bang out these ad reads and the Patreon before we get going. So let's give a shout out to the members of the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Veterans Minimum. As you can see right here on the screen, as my guy Brian pulls it up in the control room, for $1 American a month, you guys can contribute to the Patreon and the growth of the Patreon. We are currently at 80 members, trying to get to 100 by the Super Bowl. That was the goal. So for $1 a month, you can help drive those numbers up. We have the rookie contract for $5 a month. You get access to the betting picks, the Discord, $10 a month, the monthly giveaway. $20 a month, you get the shout outs, you get merch on discount from the merch store, merchandise.veteransminimum.com, cheap plug. And then the $40 tier, you guys know the vibes. You are a crazy SOB, but we appreciate you all for the contributions if you are in the Supermax. And with all that, we got to do the roll call to the members of the Patreon that are in the tiers that we mentioned. Kicking us off is Mahul Patel, Abel Rezin, Ben Kotzian, Christopher Velasquez, Derek Plates, Dylan Chadwick, Jerry Shapiro, Jordan Riley, Mike Stevens, Mike Wozniak, Nick Crummich, Thomas Robinson. While we're here with the Patreon, I need the following people to hit me up. Derek Plates, Christopher Velasquez, Mahul Patel. Mahul pledged for the entire year in the $40 tier, so I got to get the merch out to you. I haven't forgotten. And then Christopher Velasquez and Derek Plates, you guys just surpassed the $1,000 donation all time to the Patreon. And that's fucking wild. We got to be honest, that's crazy. And I appreciate it so much. You guys have helped a lot with the contributions to the Patreon. So going to send you guys a merch bundle within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it gets there before the Super Bowl. And the last read we need to do is for the lovely folks over at Fly Me Out. Fly Me Out scouts and curates trips to some of the world's most exciting locations. Those who join only need to purchase their slot. They take care of everything else. Legends, do you ever feel the urge to break away and discover the world with a like-minded tribe? Let me introduce you to Fly Me Out, the premier social travel club. Imagine if LinkedIn, Airbnb, Raya had a travel-loving baby. Whether you're looking to network with professionals on a beach or bond with creatives in the heart of a city, Fly Me Out has got you covered. Dive into curated experiences with their platform. It's never been easier to find your tribe and see the globe. Don't just travel, make memories with Fly Me Out. Head over to the app, download the app, use the promo code VM1 for expedited application review. They'll see that you're a legend and a fan of the show. They will speed up that process for you. It's Fly Me Out. Download the app, promo code VM1 for expedited application review. Oh, I nailed that entire read, baby. Let's dive into the NFL. We got wild card round weekend this week. We got some crazy matchups, crazy storylines. And joining me now, my dog, my guy, still has not put anything in the background in his room, though we light him up every time he joins the call. He is not locked up, ladies and gentlemen. He's in his house, safe and sound. Allen Strk, everybody.
Listen, the Falcons got me locked up right now. Right now, I can't invest time into painting because I'm on coaching search duty / covering one of the bigger disappointments from the NFL this season. So once the Falcons give me a break, I'm going to go shopping and get some delightful art.
Bro, did you see the video I tagged you in about the Falcons? I'm a pro Falcons guy, bro. I think it's the best available job right now of all the available jobs in the NFL.
I think personnel-wise, I would totally agree. My main concern is they've had 2 wins in the last decade and 2 winning seasons, excuse me. And I just think how they've handled this situation it was a huge cause for concern. So they had their I'm not going to call it postseason because that wouldn't make sense, but their final season press conference, and it was just Arthur Blank and Rich McVeigh. And what was bizarre about it was the general manager, Terry Fontenot, was not there. Usually when an organization does a final press conference for the season, a GM is there. And just the way they've been going about it, just seems like the GM is getting kind of faded out. And then you have Rich McVeigh, who's like CEO that has been kind of out of touch in a way. And I don't want to speak too negative on him because he's always treated me well when I've met him, but he's just not someone that's overly engaged with the NFL operations, yet he's still someone calling a lot of the shots. So I have questions about the Falcons' infrastructure at the moment. So that's why I wouldn't be overly thrilled about the role. Meanwhile, in Washington, getting Bob Myers and Chris Spielman to do some work in terms of getting the best candidate and helping clean up things over there. They were talking about Bob Myers, how influential he was with the Warriors, and Chris Spielman, highly decorated former player and great commentator. I don't know, man. I'm very intrigued by Washington, and I would put them over Atlanta.
You're bringing a basketball guy for NFL stuff?
Yeah, why not? In terms of finding like the best candidate, because Josh Harris comes from the NBA community. He runs the Sixers.
Sixers, yeah.
So I think So in terms of amount of just finding the right leader, building the right talent, building the right culture, Myers isn't going to be responsible for finding personnel, but just a matter of looking at who's the best coaching candidate out there and just figure out what are the best executives and scouts to put this team in a position to get the right talent around. Because if any organization needs a cultural revamp, we know it's Washington.
Oh, I mean, dude, we could dedicate a whole month to Washington and all the shit show that's been since we've been alive in comprehending and understanding football. I just think, I already made my case for Atlanta on the Monday show. If you guys haven't checked that out, we did the coaching firings and the best available job. I just think, like you said, man, the personnel, I think the division.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the fact that they have a top 10 pick and there's a couple of quarterbacks that could be intriguing. And then if you think about it, if you do get one of these quarterbacks, which most likely I think Atlanta definitely gets a quarterback this offseason, even though Desmond Paul Crew Ritter, the nickname that he has on this show from The Longest Yard, I think it's a very appealing job. And you hit on one of these quarterbacks, and then you'll have the luxury of not paying all these other guys whose contracts are going to be coming up. So maybe you could be on some crazy, Bengals type run, right? Where you're not paying Burrow yet. And I know some of the receivers haven't gotten paid, but I think that could be really, really intriguing, man. And then the last thing, obviously, the division is just a mess, right? Like, what's the worst job is Carolina.
It's there to be taken.
Yeah, the worst job is Carolina. Who knows what's going to happen with the Saints? Baker and the Bucks, it's been a really cool story. We'll touch on them in a little bit. But, yeah, I just think I'd be optimistic, bro. I'd rather be Atlanta than the Giants, without a doubt.
Yeah. As much respect I have for Dable, I think Falcons personnel-wise is set up nicely. I like the roster. The reason why this Falcons season has been such a colossal disappointment is because that roster is ready to compete. It's just obviously they're missing the most valuable position in sports, and coaching let them down. Hence why Arthur Smith isn't there anymore. I'm just looking at more, I don't know, are they going to be able to find the right coach? Because it's been missing. And we know how much coaching matters in this league. Look at the Titans with Mike Vrabel. That organization elevated big time when they got Vrabel. We're talking about from 2019 to 2021, they were one of the premier teams in the AFC. And it's hard to have that kind of longevity in the AFC, and they did it.
And with no quarterback in comparison to the other guys that he had to deal with. Let's be honest, man. Mm-hmm. He was going in there and making AFC title games and winning divisions with Ryan Tannehill. Everyone knows Mike Vrabel, in my opinion, pound for pound best coach. To use the MMA analogy, pound for pound best coach in the NFL. For the roster that he had, he overachieved every single year, bro.
Look, I love Vrabel as much as this person. I don't know if he's the best coach, but in terms of what he built there, absolutely. He's one of those coaches where, similar to a Mike Tomlin, similar to a Dan Campbell, when players say I'm going to run through a wall for him, they're literally going to run through a wall for him. And even this year was such a below average roster. They beat Miami, and say what you want about Miami, it's still that Tennessee team had no business beating the Dolphins. They embarrassed the Jaguars. So this team still managed to find ways to overachieve. And Ultimately, I think just from reading reports, the long-term vision just didn't fit. Vrabel's a bit stubborn where he just wants to compete now, while Tennessee, I think they realize they're in a 2-3 year rebuild, kind of like the Cardinals. So ownership and coaching the CII, and they went their separate ways. I think Tennessee still will probably regret it, but if your head coach wants to compete now and he's not understanding that you need a bit of a rebuild job, then I don't know, philosophies don't match up and you gotta go the separate ways. But no, Mike Vrabel's the man, and whoever gets them, it's gonna be exciting.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, man. And I think you don't need to look too far if you are a Tennessee Titans fan. You could just stay in the division. You could look at how quickly a team could rebuild. You saw it twice over the last couple of years. It happened. Right, the Jaguars went from having the worst pick in the draft to winning the division the next year. And then you saw the Texans do the exact same thing this year, which leads me into what we're going to do here for the playoffs. And I'm really excited for this episode because we're going to make a case for and against every team to win the Super Bowl while breaking down the matchups that we're going to have. So we're going to start with the Houston Texans at home, 2.5 point underdogs to the Cleveland Browns. Before we get into the actual matchup, Alan, give me a case for the Texans to win the Super Bowl this year.
They have one of the most in-command quarterbacks, one of the most confident quarterbacks, someone who you want to talk about literally can make all the throws. It doesn't matter how much the pocket is collapsing. CJ Stroud could literally do it all. And I think when you have a quarterback that's just operating at such a high level with a great play call at Bobby Slowick and an organized defense, it's just Houston checks a lot of the boxes. I know they're a little banged up, but this is a team that's not going to go away lightly. They're going to be competitive. And when you have a quarterback that is he's just processing perfectly right now, and there's nothing that could really stop him. And you know he's not going to put the team at a disadvantage. And that goes a long way in the NFL. So, that quarterback and the coaching staff and a good, young, fearless unit, why not? They can make a run.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/veterans minimum, when you said Bobby Slowick, I kind of got a little animated because I think their offense changed when they lost Tank Dell, and it also kind of coincides with Singletary starting to become a feature back for them. I agree with you that the reason why the Texans can win the Super Bowl is because I think right now, at this very moment, CJ Stroud is a top 7 to 8 quarterback in the NFL. And all things considered, this was a matchup that we saw earlier, right? This was the Amari Cooper, got a lot of people into fantasy championship games with this 260-something yards. Yeah? Okay. So
good times.
Yeah, the case for the Texans is that CJ Stroud, yeah, he's a rookie, and there's a crazy trend, 38% against the spread, first-time starters in the playoffs, and we have a couple, one featured in this game right here with CJ Stroud. So the case for him is that CJ Stroud is a top 8 quarterback right now, in my opinion. The case against is Bobby Slowick in this offense. I think Cleveland can suffocate them, especially with no Tank Dell. Nico Collins has been an he was on my fantasy team, got me to the championship. And I think he was one of the best ADP draft picks by far. Dude was going crazy. And I think that Cleveland can scheme up to take him away. And then what do you do if you're CJ Stroud and the Texans? How can you move the ball? That's why I think it's going to be an issue for them in this game in particular, and moving forward, why I think they can't win the Super Bowl.
Agreed. Yeah, the offense line looks a little shaky, and we know all about Greg Williams. Excuse me, Cleveland fans. Jim Schwartz.
Yeah,
they just blitz so much. That's why I get him confused. But Jim Schwartz, we know how much he brings pressure, and to me, the Browns have the most complete edge rusher in the league. So they could definitely. We've seen them terrorize offensive lines and destroy game plans. They're one of the few teams to beat the Niners this year. So we know what the Browns can do. So I'm 100% with you there.
Now, on the flip side with the Browns, I think the reason why they can win the Super Bowl is because of their defense and because of the experience Joe Flacco brings to the table. And it's crazy to think that, bro, he's been bad for 4.5 years now. he was bouncing around. At one point, he was like 1-9 straight up in games. And, you know, he had his tenure with the Jets and all that, but he's got a second win. It's been the feel-good story of the year has been Flacco with this Browns team. Stefanski, coach of the year if he doesn't get it. You know, I was really thinking DeMeco Ryans. I was even thinking Sean McVay, right? If you think of the expectations going into the year.
McVay.
Right, you think of the expectations going into the year, and then like, bro, look at the Rams roster. Like, we were talking about on the preview show how outside of Stafford, Kupp, and Donald, I think they only have 6 guys from the team that won the Super Bowl back. And you didn't know anyone. Like, no one knew Puka. No one knew Turner. Durant in the secondary, Fuller, young guys. And I think I think what Flacco, what's really interesting about him is, dude, him and Eli Manning, bro, these guys, come January, Patriot fans didn't want to play them. Right? The Packers didn't want to play Eli. The Steelers didn't want to play Joe Flacco. Like, these two guys, and Flacco in particular, the most nonchalant quarterbacks. And I think his experience and the confidence that he's playing with right now. Look, he's still going to turn the ball over. He's done it a lot so far this year too. That goes under the radar because they have been winning. But I think parlaying the defense and him together is the reason why I think the Browns can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And Swan mentioned, I think coaching plays a huge part of this. Kevin Stefanski's, to me, he's been one of the best play callers for years now. And I think what helps is he's an understudy of Gary Kubiak. And Gary Kubiak was the Ravens OC and during Flacco's best years. So I think that's why they complement each other. So as awkward as those bootlegs are to left, Flacco's just comfortable doing that. And they use heavy play action. They use a lot of 6-7 man protections, and it just gives Flacco a clean pocket. Because let's not forget, the Browns are like on their 3rd, 4th tackles. Like, they've lost both their tackles for a year. Like, they have backups now. As nasty as the interior line is with Batonio and Wyatt Teller, their tackle situation's rough, but Stefanski knows how to compensate for it. And Njoku's really stepped up. I think he's not just as a blocker, but after the catch. I don't know if there's many tight ends better after a catch than Njoku. He is ferocious. He is tough to bring down. And Flacco loves targeting tight ends. So they're just really meshing well offensively. We know how good the defense is, but I think if the Browns going to make a Super Bowl run, you just think Stefanski, I think he's just going to outcoach a lot of people, and he's been doing it all season.
Yeah. You're right about the offensive line, because in my notes here, the reason why I think they can't win the Super Bowl is, for as great as we think their offensive line is, like, coming into the year, and just like the last couple of years, we've been saying how the strength of this team is the offensive line. The offense sack plus turnover margin is the highest of any team in the NFL. And I think a lot of that has to do with the injuries on the offensive line, like you mentioned. But at least for this matchup, I think they're going to be fine. Look, the Browns are 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. The Texans are 70-1 to win the Super Bowl. If you do think the Browns could go on a miracle run, and if you go chalk and this is your only upset based on the seeding, I think you got to bet the Browns now, even though I don't agree on that long-term play and investment. But I think for this week, I'm on the Browns, I think, rather comfortably. I just can't see how the Texans can keep this game close. The Browns defense, the secondary is unbelievable. I don't think it gets enough credit for how good the secondary is with Newsome and with Ward. And because, like, obviously Garrett gets all the attention, and he's minus 300 to be defensive player of the year. So he's probably going to win that. But man, that secondary is fast. That's why every Ravens fan I know is, like, scared to shit about that potential matchup. And obviously you have the Flacco dilemma in there too. But I think for this week, man, it's just going to be hard for the Texans to put up points. I think they're going to take away Nico Collins, who's been a big play threat for them. And I hate using these kind of analogies and these kind of takes where they're playing with house money. Like, they clearly overachieved the Houston Texans this year, and you're thrilled if you're a Texans fan. I don't like saying that, but I think it does stop here. I think the Browns win. I think the Browns are a very trendy pick. Like, if you're looking at the betting splits here, Alan, you have the pros and the Joes on the Browns at minus 2.5. 65% of the tickets are coming in on the Cleveland Browns, 69% of the money. And again, if you're listening to this or you're seeing this clip, a way to differentiate where the professionals are and where the public is, tickets always are associated with the public. Money is always associated with the professionals. And they're both on the same side, which tends to be a nightmare for sports books and casinos when you have both rooting for one side. So clearly tell that the Texans are going to be what the sports books are going to need. Like a 21-20 Browns win, Allen, would be amazing for the sports books. I don't think that happens. I think they win by double digits.
Wow. This was the toughest game for me to predict. I think the Saturday games are extremely difficult. But yeah, I think you're severely sleeping on the Texans. First thing, that pass rush, when they get Jonathan Greenyard healthy, who I think got like 8 sacks this year, him and Will Anderson, they're going to push the pocket. They're going to give those tackles problems. And then even guys like Malik Collins, Sheldon Rankins, like Houston's D-line gets after it. And we all know Flacco is very mobile. And even though as great as it's been for Flacco, I think he's third in most turnover-worthy throws since his emergence. So he puts the ball in harm's way, and Houston's secondary is opportunistic. We know about Stingley. I think Jimmy Ward's been a solid addition. Jalen Petre's a playmaker. I really like this Houston defense. I think they're going to learn their lesson of they probably will have Stingley shadow Cooper because there's no way D'Amico Ryan's defense. He's going to learn his lesson. I'm a full believer in D'Amico Ryan's. I love Cleveland's roster. I think they're going to cause turnovers as well. But Houston's getting healthy now, even without Tank Dell. And look, they can't replace Tank Dell. There's nobody on their roster can. But getting good complementary pieces like Noah Brown, Robert Woods back, I think it's going to be important to them. This game will also come down to turnovers just because of Cleveland's defense. They're going to force a lot. They've done it all season, and we know how turnover-prone Flacco is. But I'm just riding with the quarterback. I'm riding with C.J. Stroud. I think the scheming, they're going to scheme up Nico Collins, get him open on a few of those like crossers on play action. It's tough, because I really like this Browns team, but something about Houston with that opportunistic defense and C.J. Stroud, I'm going to ride with them. It's going to be a very close game, but ultimately I am going with Houston.
Yo, listen, you bring up a fascinating point, and it's something I always harp on, more so in the divisional round, but it applies to the wild card round too. I think in the playoffs, you will be really successful, whether it's this year, next year, 10 years from now, if you just blindly take the better quarterback. If you take the better quarterback, now we're not talking about legacy and accolades. Who's playing better right now at this very moment? I think you could do really well in the playoffs. It's been a theory of mine for years. I'll just take the better quarterback. If I happen to get the better head coach and they're at home, I don't need no Blue Chew, bro. I'm feeling it on my own. You know what I'm saying, Alan? So to all that, though, I'm kind of sound hypocritical leaning on the Browns because I do think C.J. Stroud is the better quarterback in this matchup. However, I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going with Cleveland.
It's a 50-50 game. I think this is a very compelling matchup. I'm surprised it's not getting more buzz, maybe because it's just two teams that have kind of defied the odds this year and aren't really contenders, but I think this is an excellent matchup.
Let's move on over to the other game on Saturday, which I agree with you, man. I think the Saturday games are way more difficult for me to I just said that the Browns are going to win by double digits, right? So I guess not, but
yeah, that's what you're very definitive about that.
Yeah. Now that one I am. This one, I don't know what to do with this one. And I think
it's tricky.
This one is difficult, bro. And if you start factoring in the winds and how cold it's going to be in Kansas City, the trends are not good. Even going back to the 1970s for the Miami Dolphins when they play in freezing, I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but freezing temperatures under 32 degrees. This team is not good in the playoffs. You're talking about like 90% of the games they lose when it's in this kind of weather. Now, granted, it's not all the time. It's not a team like New England that's in the playoffs every year for the last 20-something years. But it's not a trend. And even Tua, he's Hawaiian. He hasn't done well in cold weather, too. He didn't play in the Buffalo game last year, so we're not sure how he's going to do in frigid temperatures like that with Kansas City. Now, here's the thing, right? You're looking at this game. It opened at -3. It's up to -4.5, and I think a lot of that has to do with the weather. And I think more so the injuries that Miami has coming in. Like, Allen, who's hobbling worse into the playoffs than them right now, the Miami Dolphins?
Oh, it's a nightmare.
It's not even, you can't
yeah.
even have a discussion. It's them.
Right. And they've lost even more after a Buffalo game. Like Jerome
Yeah.
Baker's a huge lost linebacker. And like they've already had issues at edge rusher. Now I lose Van Ginkel, who's like their relentless motor hustle guy. Like, oh man, like poor Melvin Ingram's now out there. Like he just got off the couch like 3 weeks ago, and now you have him drop into coverage trying to stop Dalton Kincaid. It's like, man, it's very disheartening because I think this Dolphins team, when healthy, is a top 5 team and are a legit Super Bowl contender.
Bro, absolutely. I'm with you. When they're healthy and they're buzzing, they could beat anybody any given Sunday. But I always mention this story around this time of year. And it's really important to remember. When I went to the Super Bowl 46 in Indianapolis, I remember the guy from the New York Giants that I got my Super Bowl tickets from. He asked me, how do I feel about this game? And I was like, I'm really nervous. New England. Are we going to beat them again in the big game? He's like, dude, we're going to be fine. You know why? I'm like, why? He's like, our week 1 roster that we put out, the 53-man roster, 52 of them are active. The only guy not playing is like the backup right guard, which remember, the Giants during the late 2000s, early 2010s had a phenomenal offensive line, right? Like I feel like the O-line doesn't get enough. Yeah, Snee, O'Hara, Soyber, the McKenzie, like they don't get enough love because the D-line was like the NASCAR package and all that shit. But that always resonated with me, man, this time of year where I don't think it's the hottest team going in. I really feel it's the healthiest team going in. And with the Dolphins, it's just not them. And I think the case against them is exactly that. Their injuries are piling up at the worst time of the year. All their big injuries happen Thanksgiving and after. Phillips, Chubb, Baker, Van Ginkel, Howard, Waddle, Tyreek is limping around. Like these are big. Mostert, right? Dude led the league in touchdowns. There was like a top 3 guy in scoring touchdowns. So that's the case against them. If you're a Miami Dolphins backer. And also, dude, like they haven't proven it against anyone good. 1-5 against playoff teams. Only the Giants
Let's
and Commanders.
give the Dallas win credit.
Yeah.
That was a good win against Dallas.
That was. I also feel like they should have lost that game 7 different times, but that was just classic Dallas. Like, I still can't believe Tony Pollard didn't score a touchdown. His entire body's in the end zone. And it's like, bro, I also had Tony Pollard anytime touchdown, so that's why I still remember it, and I'm still salty. But look, dude, only the Giants and the Commanders had a worse point differential than the Miami Dolphins against playoff teams this year. So they don't play well against good competition, which brings me to the case with the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs, this line, like I said, -4.5 Allen. 58% of the bets are coming in on the Kansas City Chiefs right now. 50-50 split on the money. Because this Dolphins offense, if it does hit, could always like backdoor cover. I don't trust either of these teams. It's a really hard matchup for me because like the case against Kansas City, bro, is the receivers. Like, how many drop third downs am I going to see from them? How many just
O-line's not playing well either.
O-line's
been very underwhelming. That Jawan Taylor contract,
it's been rough. Good. It's been rough, yeah. So with the Chiefs, the wide receivers, they cost them games, and also at the worst times, right? It's 4th down. It's the 4th quarter. This 3rd and 7, if it gets converted, the other team doesn't get the ball back, and then Tony drops it, or MVS drops it. Tony lines up offsides, whatever it might be. So I know I've been saying a lot. How do you feel about this game? And give me like give me a case for Miami, because we didn't really give a case for Miami.
Case for Miami is I think they still have one of the best coaching staffs since I think November. Vic Fangio has done an excellent job, and he even saw in the Buffalo game because Vic Fangio is more known for playing that too high cover shell, and he doesn't really blitz a lot. But he recognized against Josh Allen, I need to bring more pressure, and it led to an interception. It led to several pressures that Josh Allen looked uncomfortable with. So I think Vic Fangio has proven his case once again as one of the best defensive play callers. And look, we know McDaniel, the magic that he could create. So I think the case for Miami is they still have a lot of premium talent. They still have, on both sides of the ball, players that could totally change a game. We know how special Tyreek is. If Waddle gets healthy, he can make a huge difference. And defensively, like, I love Christian Wilkins. He's playing at all-pro level.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think Jalen Ramsey's really turned it up since he's came back. So they still have premium talent and guys that could win a game. So I think that's what you hold on to, is the coaching staff and the star power.
I agree with you. I think the case for the Kansas City Chiefs is pretty obvious. But you know what, man? Listen, they're the defending champs. Not just as Super Bowl champs, they're the defending AFC champ. And, if there's anything that I took away from that Netflix documentary, Quarterback, that featured Pat Mahomes, it was he kind of has that Jordan mentality of he'll find a way to amp himself up even more. Like, obviously, we know that it's the playoffs, but dude, have we ever been less confident in a Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Kelsey team heading into the playoffs?
No, it's the worst team by far.
By far, right? Which brings me to my absolute favorite, maybe favorite bet of this weekend. And if I could get an ISO cam here, that'd be fantastic. I think, bro, the Kansas City Chiefs have been saving Travis Kelce. And they are going to unleash him this week. I know it's been bad, but this is where you want him to go crazy. And I'm predicting 10 for 100 and a touchdown. And you could get a same game parlay right now of Travis Kelce anytime touchdown, Travis Kelce over 100 yards, Travis Kelce over 10 receptions, 11-1, plus 1,100. Dude, for as bad as it's been, I think now they know that it's gut check time. And if they want to have any success, it got to be because him and Mahomes are clicking on all cylinders. And then who knows what happens to the rest of this offense if them two do. You don't feel confident in that at all.
No, I understand the game was very early for you, but if you watch that Germany game, the whole game plan was dictated on stopping Travis Kelce. They double-teamed him repeatedly, and this is without Jalen Ramsey. Now they have Jalen Ramsey there. Vic Fangio, remember those Denver defenses? They gave Mahomes a ton of problems. It's just the Denver offense was incompetent. But some of Mahomes' subpar games when Vic Fangio, the coach of Denver, was against them. Like, Vic Fangio knows how to contain Mahomes, and he knows how to build a game plan to stop Kelce. So, no, I think you're in for a huge disappointment if you're back on Kelce. Plus, I think Kelce's completely aged and can't create separation like he once did.
We'll see. We'll see. This is the best part about it. I think that it's the old Gronk analogy. They were just saving him, and they saw that he's no longer the same guy that he was earlier in the year. Because, like, early in the year, there were no issues, and like this Taylor Swift stuff has gotten blown out of proportion. Like, people are blaming her and shit. I think that's crazy. I just think that Kelce plays a position where he's in the trenches, and those guys get old quick, man. And we just saw it basically happen overnight. But I'm gonna trust that they get the win, but I'm not betting -4.5. I just think it's a trap. It feels fishy. It definitely could feel like it's a 10-point game with Tua having the ball and then backdoor covering, and then it's 23-20 Kansas City, and you don't hit your bet. So I think Kansas City gets it done. They are at home, which definitely helps them. But from a betting standpoint, bro, maybe on the money line, Kansas City, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, I also want to mention, I think Kelce's dealing with a lingering toe injury, and we know how frustrating toe injuries could be, especially a guy who just such a smooth route runner and so good after a catch. This was a very tricky game. I want to believe in Miami because I'm so down on Kansas City, and I just love that Dolphins roster. But this game isn't good for them. Like, first off, Kansas City, it's playoff Spags time. I'm talking all this stuff about Vic Fangio. Playoff Spags is here. And this Chiefs defense is still playing at a fantastic level. And look, we got just the elephant. He's getting predictable. Like, if you force Tua to throw outside numbers, it becomes a problem. If you take away the middle of the field, and Kansas City has plenty of playmakers in the middle of the field, they know how to shut it down, Tua begins to struggle. So between that, and then Miami they don't have much of a power running game. Like, if you can stop them horizontally, you pretty much got their running game because they just have no threat when it comes to the power game. So I think Miami's offense, I think this is going to be very low scoring, by the way. Be prepared for a defensive slugfest. I don't think either teams are they might score 20, but it's gonna be a process. Like there's gonna take a lot of methodical drives. Like I think it could be a kicking game at one point too. And we know Butker has that playoff experience and rough weather experience. So I am going Kansas City. I'm not thrilled about it, but it's just Miami's just too beat up right now. Like I don't think their offense is going to produce enough, and I think they have enough counters offensively. Like Miami's they're kind of beat up. And look, if Eli Apple has to play a lot, someone's going to get a big play on him. I don't know what receiver. Hopefully it's Rashee Rice because he's the only one I could trust to catch the ball. But Pat Mahomes, he knows about Eli Apple. So I think at some point they'll probably get him, and I think Kansas City does enough to win. And maybe this could be a big Pacheco game as well.
Oh yeah. I am looking at Pacheco anytime touchdown. Also, I think he has a monster game. Remember he really solidified himself during the playoffs last year as a reliable guy on the ground too. I do want to mention before we wrap up with this conversation, 17-1 for the Miami Dolphins to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs 10-1. Remember, this was the preseason favorite coming into the year. So there's the highest number that you could get the Chiefs all year. If you do like them and you are banking on, I'm going to throw my money on the best player on the planet. Not a bad number, not a bad thought process behind that. Now, are the other pieces a little questionable like we broke down? Yeah. But I wouldn't hate it, bro. Like, dude, I'll be honest, bro. Everyone knows I got a lot of money on Buffalo as we segue into Bills Steelers. I've been looking at how down we are on Chiefs and Eagles. Like this was the Super Bowl matchup last year, and both teams have a lot of concerns. And I'm looking at those numbers, bro. I'm looking at those numbers, Alan, and I think it's really appealing.
Please don't.
No? Okay.
No, please. Especially the Eagles, please.
Okay.
Don't.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
Steelers, Bills. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, bro. Can the Steelers win the Super Bowl? Nope. I don't have a case for them to win the Super Bowl. And it has to do with the reason why they can't is I think it ends this week. And also no TJ Watt. That's a big problem. In my opinion.
And we don't know about Minka's status.
Yeah, we don't know about Minka. In my opinion, he is the most valuable defensive player in the league. And the numbers back it. The Steelers are 1-10 without him, 1-6 in their last 7. And their defense, Alan, per Football Outsiders, 31st overall when he's not on the field. Like, you have the worst defense in the league if he's not on the field. Man. Just not on the like. Dude can't even get he can't get some Gatorade, bro. It's like, yo, we're gonna be shit. You gotta stay on the field.
They need his presence.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. And you know what?
And they got good edge rushers too. Highsmith is a stud, and Marcus Gold's a good complementary piece. But I do think the Steelers defense is very star dependent. Like, to me, their corners. Like, I like Joey Porter Jr., but
he's young and he's raw. Yeah.
Yeah, and their linebackers are a complete nightmare. Like, this is a game. Like, if there's anything with Dalton Kincaid, just go over. Like, I think Dalton Kincaid explodes in this game.
Yeah. And this game, they're now 10-point favorites. You have 60% of the money coming in on the Steelers because by default, the pros are going to take double digits in the playoffs almost every single time. You have 55% of the bets coming in on the Bills at -10. And like, bro, I just think of it as how is Pittsburgh going to be able to move the ball and put up points? Buffalo at home. Bills Mafia is going to be crazy because they're potentially going to host 2 playoff games, bro, which is wild. This team was thinking they were going to go on the road, and now they're at home. Everyone knows about my love for Buffalo after the midpoint season. I was trashing them all off season, and shout out to Piz and J-Dub, my guys from the 716. They're like, yo, bro, now you're with us? It's like, yeah, now I'm with you because my money is on you guys, and I'm really excited for it. But I think the case for and against the Buffalo Bills is the same exact thing, and it's Josh Allen. I think they can win the Super Bowl because they have Josh Allen, and I think they can't win the Super Bowl because they have Josh Allen. This dude is a turnover machine, and it seems to come in – actually, it doesn't come in bad scenarios because last week was his first red zone turnover all year. And I was tweeting about this, Allen, and I know I've expressed in the past how I feel about interceptions. He threw – one of his interceptions was like a 4th down play.
It was one of the coolest interceptions you ever see. Like, that's a video game interception.
Yeah, that was dope. And like to me, I tweeted out like, I don't mind that. That interception on 4th down and they got the ball at the 25. I'm cool with it, bro. I'm cool with it.
The reason why I was pissed because he missed Kincaid in the flat. He easily could throw it to Kincaid for a first down. So yeah, that's what I was aggravated. Like,
you're right.
Yeah. But it was a cool moment. But it's just like, but look, you take your loss with Josh Allen. Look, he's as volatile as it gets, but look, he's still superhuman, and more times than not, you trust him to deliver. So,
and this is the time of year. This is the time of year where they run him also. They're gonna do.
And I think Joe Barry's done a very good job.
Yeah,
we gotta give credit to Joe Barry. I didn't like that Ken Dorsey got fired, but I think Joe Barry has really utilized the running game better. I love the fact that James Cook is becoming more of a centerpiece of offense. And hey, man, they're getting playoff Lenny all riled up now. Playoff Lenny was getting carries last week. Apparently, he's ready to go. So, yeah, Buffalo. It's exciting times. I think people should believe in them. If I want to just mention, if you can make a case against them, as good as their defense played, I still think it's hard to replace, Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White. Like, they just don't have that firepower defensively right now. Like, it's very schemed up, and it gets to the point, like, if they play a team like the Ravens, or even, who knows, a rematch against Miami, if Miami's healthy, it could get dangerous. So this is a good matchup for them, but if they play a true elite offense, they could get carved up.
Yeah, and I also think, I was talking about it on the Monday show with Kenny. One of my favorite bets, and you can find this on Wager Attack, you can find this on a lot of different sports books, is players to lead the playoffs in yards. 12-1 for Stephon Diggs. I have a gut feeling either him or CeeDee Lamb have a Fitzgerald 2008 type of run. Like, I think they go crazy and they catapult their teams. And if you think about it, like, they kind of have to for their team to be good too. Like, Gabe Davis got banged up, and like playoff Gabe Davis is another real thing. Like, this dude does really well in the playoffs. Doesn't make any sense. He'll go 5 games without getting a target in the regular season, and then he outshines Stephon Diggs in big moments, and he's a little hobbled. We don't know what his status is going to be heading into the game, but I think the -10 for Buffalo is my favorite play of the weekend. I'm not scared by the big number. I'm predicting like 28-10, 28-14. I think it's a rather comfortable game for the Buffalo Bills, and they move along to the next round.
Yeah, it's going to be a dominant win. The only chance Pittsburgh have, Watt played, you got a couple fluky turnovers, and they make it ugly, but I don't think they could make it ugly enough to make this competitive. Buffalo wins this definitively.
If the Steelers win this game, it'll be they're 130-1 to win the Super Bowl. In comparison, this is what the Arizona Cardinals were to win the Super Bowl to start the year. So it's like, if you're Buffalo, you lose this game, fire everybody. Everybody. Josh Allen, Diggs. I'm getting crazy, I know, but like,
a new franchise?
McDermott, everybody gone.
We're gonna bring in Belichick next.
And then you look at the Bills, just for context, right now, if you like Buffalo, you get them at +650 to win the Super Bowl. Okay, let's move on over to, I think, the funnest matchup of the weekend.
Agreed. Game of the week. As cool as Rams-Lions is, I think this is like truly the best quality game.
Bro, I'm really excited for this one. Packers going to the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys are -8. 8-point favorites are the Dallas Cowboys. You're looking at this line, though. Just rule of thumb. Professional bettors are going to take 2 possession lines almost by default, right? Like, we broke down the Steelers game. 60% of the money is coming in on the Steelers +10. They're going to just blindly take that, right? Games are a little tighter. Games slow down in the playoffs. Now, when you're looking at the Packers, now they're up to 8 +8. 58% of the bets are coming in on the Packers. 85% of the money coming in on the Green Bay Packers. And per Action Network, a registered 48,000 bets have been tracked. So this isn't just like a small sample size. This game has garnered the most action so far, Alan, per the Action Network. And I'm fascinated by this, bro, because I've been talking to both quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks, top 2 in the league in touchdown passes this year. Since week 11, Jordan Love's numbers. 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. You can make a case no one's playing quarterback better than number 10, great number, at the Green Bay Packers. And then on the flip side, I made this case on Monday, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott should be the MVP, though he does have great numbers and he has MVP numbers. My question to you is, do you think the MVP award or just awards in general have become you winning late and in big games? Because that's how I feel Lamar ended up snagging the MVP, because he had a monster performance in a Monday night game against a great opponent, the Super Bowl favorite right now, plus 200 are the Niners. And then the next week, he has another dominant performance to put a stamp on it against a team in his conference in the Miami Dolphins, where Dak played like shitty teams in the sense of it wasn't prime time. It wasn't a big spot. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Obviously, look, that Bills game really diminished his stock. It was such an ugly loss, and Dak got riled in that game. We know about the 49ers Sunday night game. So just like in those big spots, like, I don't know, when you look at the Cowboys and then you look at the Miami game as well, the offense couldn't quite score enough. It's just, and the Eagles game, which was like his one high profile, dominant performance, like the Eagles defense, we kind of know what they are at this point. Like, I thought he played really well against Detroit. That was probably the one big game I'm like, wow, he was making some tight window throws. He was firing on all cylinders, even though Detroit gave him some problems. But yeah, look, ultimately it comes down to big games. Like when you got to deliver against the contenders, that's what they're going to look at. And, Lamar got hot at the best time. And while more times than not this year, unfortunately, the Cowboys fell short in those big games. That Buffalo game in particular, I think, really damaged his stock. And I don't think he could have recovered from that.
That's a great take. I agree with you. I forgot about that Buffalo game. He did look pretty bad. It looked pretty bad for Dak in that offense.
I mean, he couldn't get the ball either because Buffalo just was running the ball for like 250 times. So I didn't help either, but it's just when they had the ball, more times than not, he was under rest and he just didn't hold comfortable.
I mentioned Jordan Love and his numbers. I think that's the case for them potentially winning the Super Bowl. They get Aaron Jones back too, which they didn't really have him throughout the whole year, like fully healthy.
I mean, Aaron Jones has been back. Man, he's looking fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is the Aaron Jones that we've grown accustomed to. Like, there's no side effects. Like, he's been great.
Right.
And I think the case against them is Joe Barry and this defense, especially in this matchup. And if, one thing that always gets left out whenever we do any breakdown, and it's not just us, just in general, is like special teams. Worst special teams in the playoffs right now remaining are the Green Bay Packers per DVOA.
I feel like they've had the worst special teams for like several years now.
Yeah.
It's always a thing with them. Like, it's bizarre. Like I think, what was it? The last season, even, like, we talked about it's like a punt return here and there, a block punt, block kick. Like, it just seems like they've had those issues for a while.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, though, like, as great as their offense is, I do think youth has affected them at times. Like, you even saw in the Chicago game, Tucker Kraft not getting out of bounds, Jordan Love throwing in the middle of the field. Like, it's just these situational moments where youth kind of shows up and they make a mental error, or the attention to detail isn't quite there. That's just going to happen because Green Bay pretty much said, we don't really want veterans. Outside of Aaron Jones and maybe AJ Dillon.
Yeah,
the whole offense is young, so that's why I would also just, as great as their offense is right now, I do want to knock it there where it's just lack of experience. Because in these games, 1 to 2 plays makes a difference, and if they don't get that bounce in a 2-minute situation, you lose by 3 points. Like, it matters. So I just want to mention that. But yeah, like you mentioned, Joe Barry though, that's the big red flag. I know Packer fans are like, just please let's get to the offseason at some point and get a real DC.
I think the case for the Dallas Cowboys, bro, man, I know I shit on him a lot and I shit on this team a lot come this time of year. I love that they got to the 2 seed because you're going to have those 2 games potentially in Dallas, which we know how much better you are at home. Bro, I think Dak Prescott right now at this very moment might be the best quarterback in the NFL for how he's playing right now. Total package this whole year. Like 2023, I think Dak has been the best quarterback. And I think CeeDee Lamb is having a special season where, like, yo, he almost led the the league in receiving yards out of nowhere. Like, it was Tyreek Hill for so long, and then like CeeDee kind of crept up on him. He actually took the lead going into that Sunday Night Football game. He was winning that. Um, and I think like he could have that Fitzgerald type run, like I was talking about it, dude. Like, I really think CeeDee Lamb could have like a monster. Look, he wants to get paid this offseason too. Not that he hasn't justified it. I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
this is a $30
That's a great
million is a $30 million wide receiver a year right now. And they're gonna have those 2 games potentially at home. And then, you know what, dude? I've been thinking, man, like, they're not better than San Francisco at all. And they got their shit punched in when they played them. But you know what, dude? They only need to be better than them one time. And if they match up with them, I think they're the best opponent for the Niners to lose would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and kind of like with Miami, like Dallas has players that literally can just turn the game over in one play. Like
Both sides of the ball.
Changes. We know them. Yeah, we know Michael Parsons and Deron Bland.
Bland.
DeMarcus Lawrence has had a rebirth year. Stephon Gilmore, he's always been a playmaker. So the Cowboys, look, we know offensively, but defensively, I think they're among the league leaders in turnovers. Like, they're going to generate big plays. So in these types of games, like 3 or 4 just can make a difference. So that's why, even though they're pretty flawed defensively up front, and you just play off Mike McCarthy, you just can't trust them. Like, this Cowboys team is flawed, but I think personnel-wise, they're one of the best in the league. And when you have that many elite players, or players that could just produce a 60-yard play out of nowhere, they have to be taken seriously.
What do you like in this game?
Ooh, this is another tough one. I'm still going with Dallas. I think Green Bay is a legitimate threat. Like, I put Jordan Love right now in that CJ Stroud category. Like, he's the next one. He's just someone that does not get riled, even when the pressure's caving in. He makes those throws, like just a sidearm. Like, he doesn't need a clean pocket to operate. He's just going to fade back, throw it sidearm, and he'll connect with a Bo Melton, who was apparently on a practice squad all year. I don't know how a team did not sign him, but like, these receivers, they're going to get out there. I love Wicks, Jaden Reed. I think Jaden Reed's one of those playmakers that we're going to be talking about the next 5 years. He is very dynamic, and it wouldn't surprise me if he burst out a couple of explosives in this one. But Dallas, I just think they have too much firepower offensively, and they'll get enough defensive stops.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like the +8 for Green Bay just because of the offense and how well Jordan Love is playing. And look, man, that's the nature of a first-year starter and how he plays. And he does have a lot of Aaron Rodgers in him, like the flick of the wrist and those like off-balance throws that he makes and those ropes, back shoulders and whatnot. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's definitely the game that I'm the most excited about from just like an X's and O's. I'm leaning towards Dallas. I'm thinking like, 31-24. I think it could be high scoring. And I think the Cowboys will be like in control, I think, of the whole game. And then maybe you get that backdoor cover. At least that's what I'm betting on, because I did take the Packers +8. But I do think that Dallas ends up prevailing. All right, let's speed up just a little bit, because I know you got a pretty hard out here. I think the matchup that everyone's the most excited about from a storyline standpoint is definitely the one that's happening in Detroit, Sunday Night Football. You got the Rams going to play the Detroit Lions. Obviously, we've been talking about this like 6 weeks ago. I was saying like, fantasy booking, it'd be fire if Stafford got to go play the Rams. But you know what, man? Someone in the Discord was like, what about Jared Goff? You don't think Jared Goff is going to be fired up? Like, bro, they turned their back on me. They got rid of me kind of thing. Like, you don't think so?
That's the revenge game, though.
Yeah.
No, this is Stafford. There's no ill will. Like, to me, Jared Goff is the one that has all the revenge here. And I know you'll appreciate this. Shout out to Nate Type from The Athletic. He basically said Sean McVay, Marty Jannetty'd Jared Goff.
Whoa. Listen, you give me a wrestling reference, brother. It's the Rumble is coming up. It's Mania season. I'm all in.
Yeah, think about it, though. Like, Jared Goff got completely cast away. And I don't want to go back to Miami, but I do wonder at some point if Mike McDaniel might do the same to Tua, where it's just like, you're not good enough. I need to find an upgrade. Like, that's what pretty much happened. And McVay called his shot, and Stafford won the Super Bowl. Credit to Goff. He's very resilient. He showed great fortitude in getting to where he's at now. But to me, this is all on Goff. I know it's a great homecoming for Stafford, but Detroit loves Matthew Stafford. If anything, Jared Goff has a huge point to prove against someone that essentially said you're not good enough for me.
I love how you spun that. Love how you spun that. Because yeah, you're right. Like Stafford they did him a favor. Right? He leaves and then he wins the Super Bowl, where the other guy leaves and then his team wins the Super Bowl. You're like, holy shit, was I really holding them back? So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. I think the case for the Rams, dude. The case for the Rams. And as I was talking about the Cowboys before being the only team that could beat the Niners, I completely forgot about the Rams, because all my friends that are 49ers fans out here, bro, and there's a pretty big like pocket of Niner fans here in Las Vegas. They're like, yo, we don't want to play the Rams, bro. Like the Rams, obviously it's in division. We know about playing each other.
Yeah.
But like also now, dude, I think
there's a very good chance they're going to play each other.
Right. And this offense is way better than the one that won the Super Bowl. I don't even think it's debatable.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now. Better running game, better weapons. Yeah. Damn.
And look, and everyone knows I've been pro Odell Beckham. They don't win the Super Bowl without him, because they don't get to the Super Bowl without Odell. And Triple Crown Cooper Kupp. But now Puka broke all the rookie records. You got a running game with Kieran Williams. Stafford looks healthy. Offensive line playing a lot better than people expected. You still have Cooper Kupp. You got a random Tutu Atwell going deep for 50 yards. You get Robinson, who scored like a touchdown in 6 straight games at one point this year. Like this offense is really good. And I think that it's not being spoken about at all, bro, or much. They're the hottest team in the NFC. They're 7-1 in their last 8, and their only loss is to Baltimore in overtime, which they're the only team that played Baltimore well this year. So this team is dangerous. I think the knock against them would be that their defense gets smoked by the pass. So this is a good matchup for both teams, like, because both teams like to throw. And even though they both have discovered a running game too throughout the year, like both teams, like Goff and Stafford should have over 300 yards, I think, by like halftime. Like they should be able to do whatever they want through the air.
I would be a little cautious on that, just because I think Dan Campbell realizes his defense is not built to stop him. He might have more ball control. Like this could be a Dave Montgomery game.
I like this.
Yeah. Look, Detroit can run the ball. They know how to punish teams. And I think he's starting to recognize that this defense, we can't have them on the field that much, because otherwise they're just going to get torn apart. Unless Aiden Hutchinson creates pressure. And I know they got Gardner Johnson back. He's a big addition. And I think Alan McNeil, who's had a emerging, he's broke out this year, is good. But Detroit just does not have much to stop him. So I could see them trying to slow the game down and just running the ball. I do want to mention that.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that I wrote down for the reason why I think they can win the Super Bowl. It's in the playoffs. I think they have the best offensive line, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they can run the ball, which is what you want this time of year, and a way to protect Jared Goff too. If they have to go outdoors and play a San Francisco, Dallas would be indoors, so that would bode well for them. I think the case against them is, dude, even though he's a rookie, he was the best tight end this year, Sam Laporta. Like start to finish, there was not a better tight end than him. And he got hurt in a game that was borderline meaningless for the Lions. Yeah, I know Campbell and that staff got a lot of heat for that. But when you dive into it also, Alan, only St. Brown had more catches that led to first downs on the Lions than Sam Laporta. So he was a security blanket, and he was able to make a lot of plays. And obviously, the matchups with tight ends, it's always a huge advantage for you. I think that's something to definitely monitor. And that's the reason why I think that they can. And obviously, I was talking about the defense. Like, I think their defense can be had. And that's why it's a fascinating matchup between the two offenses.
Yeah, like both these defenses have, they need to spend on corners. Like both teams, like I like Brian Branch, but besides that, both these teams, they're lacking at corner. Both teams also have linebackers that don't really add much. So it's like, don't get me wrong, they got some records up front. Like I think it's good for the Rams now. They're not overly dependent on Dom. Obviously, Dom's still phenomenal, but Byron Young, Louis Turner, like they've really emerged. And I think Detroit has more than just Aiden Hutchinson as well. So their D-lines can get after it, but these secondaries, you're going to see a lot of open plays. And this is, I think, the game easily with the biggest shootout potential. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see one of these teams crack the 40 burger.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, you're just looking at like both teams got guys that could house the ball from like the 50-yard line often. Like they got a lot of playmakers
Yeah.
here. I will say from a betting standpoint, this line is at 3.5. I'm not scared of everybody being on the Rams because last couple of years we've had this happen. Last year, everybody was on the New York Giants to beat the Vikings. They were the most heavily wagered team from a tickets standpoint. They ended up winning outright. And from some pro bettors that I've talked to out here, they're on the same side. They like the Rams to win this game outright. I think that the Rams do win this game outright. So I'm picking the LA Rams. They're currently 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. Lions are 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. What do you think?
It pains me because I love this Lions team. I love Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson. Like this team is just what they've done this year. By far, to me, like one of the most enjoyable teams in the league. Like you have to love what they do. But this is a horrible matchup. Their secondary just scares me the worst way. I just don't know how they could stay in front of Kupp, Puka, and and you just have to love the mastery of Sean McVay, excuse me. Just the Rams offense, they're firing all cylinders. And if Stafford has a clean pocket, which I expect them to have for a good portion of the game, because they're going to double team Hutchinson. They're going to slide their protections to Hutchinson. Like McVay will scheme this up, right? And Raheem Morris, who knows Jared Goff quite well, is going to bring all sorts of pressure. And we know how much Goff struggles under pressure. If the Lions have to play from behind, it's going to be a huge problem. Like they have to play in front to somehow win this game. But to me, I don't even know, even in a shootout with Laporta being out, do they have enough firepower to keep up with the Rams? So, unfortunately, with the Lions, I don't think they have enough for this one. I'm going with the Rams, and I think the Rams are built to really pose a threat to whoever they play in the NFC.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm on the Rams also. I think it's been a great story with the Lions, what they've built and what they're continuing to build. But I think it's just a terrible matchup for them. And,
it should be more, man.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, why'd you have to do that? You could have got Lions-Packers, and I think I would have felt slightly better. But then again, it would have ruined this phenomenal matchup. So
yeah. It would have ruined two matchups, right? Because we really like that Packers and Cowboys game too. All right, let's wrap up with the game on Monday. Monday Night Football. The Eagles are now 3-point favorites on the road going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I want to mention that the Tampa Bay Bucks have the longest odds to win the Super Bowl of any team in the NFC, despite winning their division. They are 95-1 to win the Super Bowl. To add context, it's the same odds that the Chicago Bears had to win the Super Bowl at the start of the season. And Allen's Atlanta Falcons close by at 90-1 to win the Super Bowl at the start of the year. Okay. On the flip side, the Eagles, you could get them at 17-1, the same odds as the Miami Dolphins to win the Super Bowl. Allen, the reason why the Eagles can win the Super Bowl, offense and defensive line, the combination of both, clearly the best in the playoffs. And that weighs a lot this time of year.
I don't see that.
Who do
Maybe
you
their
got?
offensive line, but that defensive line is nowhere near the same. Like they don't generate the same amount of pressure. As great as Carter is, like I think Graham's aged. Hassan Reddick doesn't make quite the same impact. This Eagles team's broken. I don't think they're any sort of threat, and I would be stunned if they win this game. I think this is a totally destroyed team right now. Yeah, and
well, 1-5.
I don't think Sirianni should be fired.
Yeah, 1-5 coming into the playoffs, bro. So you might be onto something.
Yeah, like I don't think Sirianni should be fired, but he's absolutely should be on the hot seat. I think they need to take a real strong check of who the coordinators are going to be next year because I think they're poorly coached offensively and they just have nothing defensively right now. Like it's to me one of the worst units in the league, and it's so easy to get open against them. And say what you want about Tampa, but they have playmakers, and Dave Canal is one of the better play callers in the league, and I think they could get Tampa's going to create some chunk plays in this one. I don't know how you watch Philly right now and feel any sort of confidence with them, from how they're coached to how the defense is playing. They can't tackle. Like there's nothing to be encouraged about with the Eagles.
Yeah, and their defense has been struggling, and now they get the reason why I think the Bucks can win this game and the Super Bowl. I mean, Godwin and Edmonds can just go on a run and they can beat any secondary in the playoffs that they'll run into. They've done it before. And then Baker's having a career year, man. This is the best we've ever seen Baker. And I know he got hurt last game, and he's going to play, but how healthy is he going to be? I think this is a dangerous matchup for the Eagles for sure. But it also wouldn't surprise me, and I hate doing this, playing both sides, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go in there and just dominate Tampa Bay also.
I don't think the Eagles are capable of dominating anyone. Like, think about who they played. They played the Giants, the Cardinals.
They have been playing shit teams too, yeah. And they haven't dominated them. Yeah, you're right.
And to dominate, you got to get defensive stops. Like, there was one point between the Cardinals game and the Giants game, 10 possessions. They allowed touchdowns 7 of those drives.
Yeah.
Like outside of a fluky turnover that Kyler threw off a miscommunication with, I think it was Greg Dortch, like, they just have nothing defensively, the Eagles. So the best hope, because I look, the Eagles still have star power, don't get me wrong, but they got to get their really back to running the ball. You could run this Tampa team. Vita Vea is not the same player. Levante David is older. Devin White has been inconsistent. Like, they have to trust their running game. And maybe Hurts, okay, he's injured, but if you don't want to give DeAndre Swift 20 carries, then give Kenneth Gainwell some time. Activate Rashad Penny for all I care. But if the Eagles are going to somehow win a game, they got to trust their running game more, because Hurts he seems out of sync right now. AJ Brown's banged up, and their offensive schemes are just play calling wise very lackluster. And it's just, I think they got to start depending on the run. And also, let's just mention Todd Bowles, one of the blitz heavy defensive schemes in the league, and we know how much Hurts struggles against the blitz. So that's another reason why the Eagles are going to have some chance to win this game. They have to really start running the ball more.
Yeah, it's funny how perceptions, like I was talking about this on the Monday show too with like the quarterbacks, right? Like, just in general, if you're a first round quarterback, you're going to have a lot more leeway. Or if you're the number 1 overall pick, like, dude, Daniel Jones has 2 more career wins than Trevor Lawrence. And it's like the stigma.
Depressing.
Yeah, the stigma though, like coming in was like, yo, you're taking a quarterback from Duke? Like, it's not a shooting guard, bro. Like, it was that stigma that was attached to Daniel Jones. And then Trevor Lawrence was the golden boy. He was sunshine. He was national championship at Clemson and all this stuff. And it's like, they're kind of having the same careers if you just look at the QBA, QBB, right? And the reason why I say that is because, like, Tampa Bay all these years, we've just been thinking about their defense. Like, you can't run on their defense. Like, no, you got to throw on their defense. It's like, nah, it's kind of flipped. Like, Winfield makes a lot of plays in that secondary now, bro. Like, Winfield is a baller, Winfield Jr. And their front seven is not as dominant as it was, even last year. So you're right. I think DeAndre Swift is going to have to get it going, and I think they got to run Jalen Hurts more too. Curious if like a report comes out after the year that like Hurts has been battling some chronic injury on like a shoulder or something, because seems like his play hasn't been good. Like, he hasn't had a good year this year either. But from a fantasy standpoint, dude scored all these touchdowns that people are like, oh, yo, he did great. It's like, not really. Not throwing the ball he did.
Those short yard situations, easy 6 points.
Yeah, and also, like, dude, it happened to Cam Newton also. Cam was the man diving over people and bulldozing people and taking all these hits at the goal lines and short yardage. And then you saw how that played into his career. Now, eventually, you can't do that. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts, obviously a different example, but just something to monitor, man. Josh Allen, the same thing, like totally different quarterback, different game, but it's just something that's always on my mind whenever I'm looking at these guys. But let's wrap it up with these picks.
One last thing about the Eagles. Yeah, I just want to mention one last thing about the Eagles, because it seems like I'm totally writing them off. I will say, like, they still have a locker room full of veterans that are going to hold players accountable, and you can't discount their experience with Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. Like, these are these guys have been through it all. So that's why I want to totally write off the Eagles, because they have players in that locker room that could hold players accountable and just provide that leadership is what you need to win the playoffs. So, and look, the Eagles still have the star power. And we talk about dynamic duos. When AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are on, they're on, and Dallas Goedert's definitely a threat as well. And hey, I don't know if it's called a revenge game, but Julio had 2 touchdowns not too long ago. If he could pop up in this game, sure, let's do it. Why not? Julio had a long history of dominating the Bucs, so let's get funky with that.
You don't gotta tell me twice about Julio anything. I'm looking at it right. Yo, bro, do you know how many people hit me up? Because someone threw $5 on him to score 2 touchdowns in that game, and he was 90-1. And the amount of people that tagged me were like, yo, was this you? I was like, no, it wasn't, but it should have been. I betrayed my boy Julio. I betrayed him, and I didn't bet him there. But Julio Jones, plus 450, anytime touchdown. Allen, I'm in. I've made worse decisions in my life. Julio! We're back, baby.
Hey,
Revenge game.
If they get in the red zone, man, watch him. They like getting to the red zone.
Let's go, bro. That just got me hyped. What a way to end it. Haven't heard a Julio mention on this pod for far too long, and we're back, baby.
Who you picking?
I think I'm going to go with Philly. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. I think this is what they played for this time of the year. Obviously, they would have liked to win the division, but could have had way worse matchups being a wild card than playing Tampa Bay. And I think this is a good sign for them, and I think they're going to get it together Monday night. I'm taking Philly.
All right, I'm going Tampa. I just can't trust Philly right now. I think they're playmakers. Watch out Rashad White, because the Eagles can't tackle, and Rashad White's very elusive. So I think that and Bowles is going to blitz the hell out of Hurts. And we mentioned Antoine Winfield. Love that you mentioned him. He's playing like an all-pro. Wouldn't surprise me if he got a turnover too. So I think Tampa wins, and crisis in Philly. Just get ready for it.
Yeah, it's going to be rough in Philly. It's going to be rough if your prediction is correct. So, hey, man, this was dope, dude. I love the episode that we put together. It was great having you on. Let the people know what you're working on and what they could find.
Allen Strk, Allen Strk. I just worked on a long-form piece on how the Arthur Smith era just completely crumbled and why they had no other choice to let him go. So got that going on, and just trying to see what this team's going to do. It seems like they're going to go high roll and go out for Belichick or Harbaugh. So I'm going to be covering that on that end.
Damn, Harbaugh would be fire.
I would love it. Oh, yeah.
Harbaugh would be dope.
He's a control freak, but hey, he brings success to an organization. A guy like him has every right to be a control freak.
Yeah. Damn, that'd be sick. At Nick Day is 10 as you can find me. All things Veterans Minimum or at Veterans Minimum. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.
In his element, I'm a gold medalist, bronze like your medal is. So many deer in headlights, but it's bedtime. Hear that supper bell, main course, be the venison.
Dab. Most dangerous game. Either kill or be